And Vanessa, what's going on? Escalation happening in the region?
Yeah, definitely. It looks like some kind of escalation, but I would also say it's very much about fake news, both in the UK, the EU, and the US, to try and portray Iran as severely weakened prior to the indirect or direct, according to Trump, talks that are going to take place in Oman on Saturday. So let's have a quick look at a few of the reports that have been coming out in the last few days. So first of all, there was a claim, and actually this was in the Telegraph, Iran abandons Houthis under relentless US bombardment. This was a claim that Iranian advisors were fleeing Yemen under the US heavy bombardment, which of course has been denied both by Ansarullah in Yemen and by Iran itself. And of course, the fact is that while Trump is claiming that the US aggression has basically beaten Ansarullah back, of course it hasn't. The missiles are still coming both towards the occupied territories of Palestine and towards US and Israeli shipping in the Red Sea. Then this report came out again very recently. Iran-backed Iraqi militias consider disarming amid threats from the Trump administration. Again, this is denied, but it was picked up by, let's say, soft Zionist media in Haaretz, which we can have a look at that report. Again, it talks about with disarmament of militias in Iraq, Iran signals a major strategic shift. It's saying that pro-Iranian militias, of course, again, describing them almost as proxies of Iran, which is untrue, have agreed to disarm, but it doesn't necessarily indicate a weakening of Iran's power in Iraq, but does point to Tehran recalibrating its strategy following the blows to its ring of fire, which of course include Lebanon, Palestine, and the international coup in Syria last December. So effectively, what it's trying to say is that Iran is in a weakened position. It's prepared to compromise during the talks on Saturday in Oman. This is an article, again, in what I would call as a sort of soft, centrist Israeli media. As reconstruction stalls in Lebanon, victims of Israeli strikes, which was during the previous war between Hezbollah and Israel, say they won't bow to US pressure to normalize with Israel. So what is the US trying to do? It's trying to withhold funding for the reconstruction of the south, and that includes the southern suburbs of Beirut, through the IMF and the World Bank, which of course is a very typical strategy of the United States. On the 6th of April, the US envoy Morgan Otargis came to Lebanon, and of course she is pushing for the full disarmament of Hezbollah, again using the threats that IMF and World Bank won't put any funding into the rebuilding of Lebanon, but also threatening that the US will withdraw from the Oversight Committee, which effectively will give Israel full freedom to act in the south without any kind of calibration by the United States. Next, false report. Hezbollah is apparently ready for disarmament talks if Israel withdraws from South Lebanon. Well, Israel should have already withdrawn under the original ceasefire agreement. And in reality, what this is trying to do is to go for not only the withdrawal of Hezbollah from the southern region to the north of the Litani River, which is part of the UN resolution 1701, which was part of the ceasefire agreement. But as I've mentioned, of course, Israel has maintained its presence, military presence, in 5 areas of the south, 5 strategic high areas from which it is on a regular basis attacking civilians in that area. But it's also been carrying out airstrikes on a regular basis, drone surveillance, drone strikes, drone assassination. So it's not at all holding to the ceasefire agreement. And then yesterday, this was a major report that came out in Saudi Arabian media. Of course, Saudi Arabia working regularly to reinforce a Zionist agenda in the region.
And it looks like we have lost Vanessa, unfortunately. So we'll she'll be back in a second. But anyway, there is a final. You're back. No, you're not back.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Yes. Okay. Right. Sorry, you were talking about Iran's Al-Quds special forces used Beirut Port to smuggle weapons for Hezbollah.
Yeah, which of course is clearly untrue, but it may signal an attack by Israel on the port itself. We could hear Israeli jets in the skies yesterday. And finally, there were reports on social media that there were special US representatives landed in Israel yesterday for talks, but also Ben-Gvir, one of the most extremist members of Netanyahu's government, has embarked on an official visit to the US after being boycotted by Biden administration. So what we seem to be seeing is a build-up of stories to facilitate some kind of escalation, but also prior to the meeting on Saturday between Stephen Witkoff and the Iranian representatives.
Thank you for that. Well, more for the Middle East just after the ad break. So let's have a look at this. If you like what the UK column does, you'd like to support us, support.ukcolumn.org is the place to go, and you can join us. You can make a donation. You can join us as a member. These are two different things. If you want to watch UK Column News Extra, please make sure you join as a member, and there are various time periods that you can join over. You can pick something up from the UK Column shop, and we still have a few t-shirts from the event at the weekend, and those will be going up in the shop in the next day or two. Or if you would like to get something from clivetokar.com, if you use the link on this page, we get a small commission on that. But if you can't do any of that, that's absolutely fine. But please do at least share the material you see on the UK Column website. And we prefer if you share content from the website rather than sharing stuff that's on the platforms. The share links are provided. And of course, you can use other platforms if you wish. Now, yesterday's interview, Thinking with Your Heart, this was yours, Charles?
It was indeed absolutely terrific. It's gone down really well. So I'd very much encourage you to get a good listen to Jonathan Marshall, who I met last year at a country show. He performs with amazing stallion and falcons, but he addresses what he describes as the anti-nature agenda absolutely perfectly. And it's a really, really delightful and uplifting interview. So please do have a listen.
Thank you, Charles. And tomorrow at 1 p.m, Brian will be putting out the second part of his discussion with Karl Schwartz on 9/11. And so do join us at 1 p.m. for that if you possibly can. There is a Glasgow Peace Walk being run by Stand for Peace. It's taking place on the 12th of April, 2025 at 12 p.m, St. Enoch Square. Details on screen. The details will be in the show notes as well. Please get to that if you possibly can. And Diane has asked us to highlight this crowdfunder on Give, Send, Go for this is legal defense for SLAP suits against freedom of speech. This is sorry, Charles, can you remind me who this is? Because this has completely fallen out of my head.
I'm afraid to say I can't help. I don't know who that is, so I'm terribly sorry to everybody.
I do apologise. Well, I do apologise for that, as this is live and it's completely fallen out of my head. So anyway, the details will be in the show notes for that as well. So do please support that if you can. This is about what's going on in libraries and freedom of speech, defamation lawsuits, and all kinds of stuff around that in the United States. But nonetheless, it should be of importance to everybody. Vanessa, let me come back to you then, and